Describe training skills and techniques used with the adult learner. Discuss elements included in the lesson plan. Discuss how to manage unexpected classroom situations. Discuss the benefits of utilizing teaching tools. And review and discuss features of what to do for your teen's health book and sample lesson plan. Everyone should have received a packet. If you did not, you can reach out to Ms. Johnson and she will supply you with a packet. But within that packet, you have a CD-ROM disc, as well as you have the training manual itself and the actual booklet, what to do for your teen's health. So everyone should have those resources. The Train the Trainer session, it is a series, it's a book series that ASU Stronger Together will be presenting. This session, of course, is what to do for your teen's health. And the next 2 Tuesdays from 10 to 11:30, we'll have the other sessions, what to do when your child gets sick and what to do when you're having a baby. So our first objective, the way I tried to set the PowerPoint slide up that keeps the objective in mind, what we're discussing. You'll see the objective at the top of each PowerPoint as we go through to remind you of what we're discussing, what we want to achieve. And if you have any questions, we will utilize the manual as we're going out. So please make sure you have that handy, as well as we will utilize the booklet, the what to do for your teen's health. So the first thing we want to talk about as it relates to planning a class for what to do for your teen's health, we want to talk about the budget. And the budget is important for a number of reasons. If you will, in your appendix, if you will, turn to the back of your manual, and you'll see an example budget worksheet. Here,
Alan.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you start your slideshow and make it bigger? It looks a little small on our screen.
Small. Okay, let's go. Okay. Did that help?
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay, awesome. Okay.
Can you click on your screen the got it button because it's blocking the slideshow?
The got it button. Okay. Just a moment. Is it still blocking?
It looks good to me.
Oh, maybe that was on my screen. Got it.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So the budget, as I was stating, in your appendices, you'll see an example budget worksheet that you can utilize when you begin to plan for your class. A budget is very important. Whether whether your organization will be sponsoring the class or whether you will actually ask businesses within the community to sponsor the class, you want to go ahead and prepare a budget worksheet. That way you'll know what the expenses that may be involved ahead of time. The manual itself does give you some ideas as far as, containing the costs of planning a class. If you do not have, access to certain resources, for example, you could contact the school to see if they would actually allow you to utilize a classroom at no charge. Also, churches, in our communities, our churches sometimes will allow you to utilize room and space to actually conduct classes of this nature. And not only that, some other things you want to consider I like to call behind the scene costs, or like marketing, advertising for posters and flyers. You want to account for those monies that will be needed, as well as making copies of any handouts that you want to give. You may decide you want to give them a copy of the actual PowerPoint that you will utilize along with the booklet. In addition, you may decide you want to provide refreshments and have door prizes, as well as offer childcare, because we know these are all things that actually tend to foster or encourage people to actually attend the class or the meeting. And of course, any other costs that may be contributed to the class, holding the class itself. Attendance as it relates to planning a class is very important. You all, if you don't mind, if you'll participate in this, what are some actions that will encourage participants to attend a class? What are some actions you think would encourage participants to attend a class?
Incentives.
Yes, definitely incentives, giving away door prizes, or not only that, it could be you have a group, a family, a parent family group, or parents coming. Of course, they'll be the ones attending. You could actually, and as it aligns with incentives, you could have like maybe gift cards to the grocery store, things that the individuals can actually utilize, utilizing incentives, making sure the class is free. You know, sometimes educational classes, they cost. So providing the class free, making sure the class is held in an easily accessible area, that, you know, sometimes people do not have transportation. So are they able to use public transportation to get to the location where the class is being held? Also, a convenient time. You know, sometimes you may have to offer your classes early in the morning and late in the evening, because, you know, the individuals that who will be participating in this class, they may be working. So those are just some things to consider when you're planning a class as it relates to attendance. You want to do things, or take measures that will encourage people to come. In addition, advertising. Advertising is very important. And the purpose of advertising is to get the information out there, to let the people know that these resources are available. So making sure you start your advertising early enough. You don't want to start a week before you're going to have the class. That's not a good idea. That's not, you're not positioning yourself, your organization, or to have a good attendance come to the class to attend. So actually, you want to start your campaigning for a class that you're planning at least 4 to 5 weeks out ahead of time. Okay, and not only that, when you're planning a class, try and find out about the people who will be attending. This will help also. You know, if you want to target families that are maybe underserved, or may have low socioeconomic status, and what I'm saying, their income may be below the poverty level. You want to know the people that you are going to serve, know the people who you're going to provide this product to, and tailor your advertisement to that. Some ways, there are many, many, many different ways that you can do your advertising where it is economical, cost efficient. Some people, you know, they utilize social media, the internet, the use of flyers. You can actually advertise in that manner, posting posters in the community. Also, having the local radio station announce your class. Oftentimes, sometimes the radio stations, they'll give away a certain amount of time to nonprofits, just, you know, to advertise interventions that they have available for the public. Also, you could use phone calls, emails, different types of measures to actually advertise your class. If you look in your appendix, there is a flyer that you actually can utilize. You can modify the flyer. Actually, you could put these are example pictures, but you could change that picture and put a different stock picture there, and actually even change some of this wording. All these materials should be located on your CD disc that you receive. So utilizing flyers is one way to advertise. And also, as it relates to when you're planning your event, to make sure you don't miss items, you can use the event planning checklist located also in the appendices. If you all will just take a moment and turn with me to the event planning list, and it actually lists things to help you plan for your class. For example, what is your budget for the class? How many people do you want to train? And with how many people do you want to train, you do need to be mindful of the location, the space, the room setup, those types of things, which we'll talk about a little more as we go on. What is the language spoken by the people you plan to train? Will the class be free? You want to plan the length of the class. For this educational tool, it takes approximately 2 hours if you're going to teach the entire booklet, go over the entire booklet with the resources that were provided. So it takes about 2 hours, but that doesn't mean you can't just pull a topic out and just, concentrate on that topic, which of course would shorten the time. Select the location for the class, confirm the availability of the trainer, and most of you all will be doing the training, is the understanding I got from the introductions and the role and the position that you play in your organization. Schedule the date and time for the class and make a decision. Will you provide refreshments, childcare? Will you provide incentives? In addition, you want to develop flyers, posters, and other promotional materials. And then after you've done that, all those things, you can actually begin your campaign. And as it relates to advertisement, you don't want to, there's steps in advertisement. The purpose is to get the information out there early enough for the individuals to know about the information. And then from there, once you get people signing up, you want to keep them encouraged as far as about attending. So keep in contact with them. And then just a few days before the actual class, you want to reach out to them. Either you can send them a text message, give them a phone call, or send a reminder email about the up and coming class.
Dr. Allen,
Yes.
may I add one other thing that just popped up when you're considering cost and everything as well? I remember one time having a training, and sometimes if you want a person that may be an expert in this particular area of the training that you're presenting, in this case, they may want to be paid even if they are friends. So, if you decide that you want to have a co-partner in helping you extend this even more or more in depth, they may want to be paid too. So I just wanted to put that out there too when you're planning and considering potential costs.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. That is a great point. If you're going to have a guest speaker, you may at that time have a specific area where you want to invite a guest speaker, a nurse, a doctor, someone, and not even just a nurse or a doctor. It may be another skilled layperson who can offer experiential knowledge. You do want to make sure you do account for that in your budget. Thank you, Ms. Carter.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Our next objective is discuss characteristics of a learning environment. Someone tell me, what do you think an ideal learning environment would be like? Could someone describe an ideal learning environment? For starters, the ideal learning environment, it should be comfortable and free from distractions. That is of utmost importance. It does need to be comfortable and free from distractions. Also, the location should be familiar and easily accessible. You're more likely to have people come to a location if they can easily access it, if it's in a safe area. Also, as it relates to the learning environment, the size of the room needs to be large enough to accommodate, the number of people you're expecting. So you don't want to have, 50 people in a room. That's not, feasible. The room setup or seating arrangement, this tends to vary, and it is related to the number of people that you will have attending the class. If you actually look in your manuals on page 18, it actually gives you different types of seating arrangements that you can utilize. You actually have the U shape. You can utilize if you have a small class of 20. And then you have the semicircle or around a table. Normally the semicircle around a table, this is utilized if you're not utilizing a lot of tools, additional teaching tools. For example, you may just have the book, and I may have printed out a handout PowerPoint, and you all are going to sit to the table and actually discuss the lesson to be taught. An additional seating arrangement includes just the standard classroom seating, as you can see from the picture demonstrated in your manual on page 18. Also, for a large group, you can use the theater styles seating arrangement. So location, the size of the room setup, these are all important as it relates to the learning environment. You want to make sure that the people, the participants, they are comfortable and basically there are not distractions around, okay? In addition, the room temperature, this makes a difference. The recommended room temperature for a room when you're having group meetings is recommended between the range of 68 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And of course, you may have to adjust that as needed because, the more people you have in a room, the more heat is produced. So that will definitely need to be adjusted as needed. Also, as it relates to the learning environment, the trainer arriving early, this actually has an impact on the learning environment. For example, with this session, I started it about 15 minutes before the time I was here. I was logged in. I made sure I had all my material laid out that I knew I would need to use. So it does make a difference. About as it relates to the trainer arriving to a session early. The trainer arriving early helps to facilitate a comfortable environment and makes a positive impression. It is recommended for trainers to arrive about 30 to 45 minutes before the scheduled class time. And of course, sometimes that can be cut down. It just depends on how much you make sure that's set up and available and ready to go the day before. But you yourself, you do want to, if you're presenting, you want to make sure you do arrive early. If you look in your appendices, there's an appendix D, and it actually gives you a checklist as it relates to training readiness. It gives you information related to what to do several weeks prior to the class, 1 to 2 days before the class, and then the day of the class. For example, several weeks prior to the class, you want to make sure you schedule the trainer for the class, schedule a helper if needed to assist with registration and activities during the class. Definitely if you're going to have a large group, or definitely if you're going to use like a format that we're utilizing now, if you're going to do it virtually. For example, we have Ms. Johnson and Ms. Marcus, they're helping to monitor the chat for me. So, I can focus on the presentation. Also, they assisted with the registration. So you know, if you have a large group, you want to make sure you do have adequate help to assist. Define the health issues of your population and the change in behavior you wish to achieve. Basically, learning objectives, like what we're doing now. So we're going to talk about learning objectives as it relates to what to do for your team's health as we go on. But you definitely want to have learning objectives. Read the book several times to make yourself familiar with the content. You also want to tailor the curriculum and teaching methods to your population. That's why it's important to try and find out about your population. That was the purpose of the introduction for me, to find out the populations that you all serve, the organizations that you all were with. Decide if you will use training tools such as a flip chart. Practice teaching the class several times. Also, visit the location for the class. If you're not familiar with the place, will you need signs to help people find the classroom? Sometimes that is very helpful, even though you have planned for the class, you have the location, but actually posting signs directing people how to get to the classroom or designated area. You want to make sure you check lighting, the temperature, and the restroom facilities. This is very important. And develop a list of appropriate low-cost community resources to give to people who attend the class. As it relates to your training readiness checklist, also 1 to 2 days before the class, you want to reconfirm your reservations for the classroom, call to remind people about the class, confirm trainer and helper, confirm arrangements for refreshments if you decide to provide any, make signs to help people find the class and restroom facilities, read the book again, train to practice teaching the class again, practice using teaching tools and setting up audio visual equipment. In addition, you want to pack all the items you'll need before the class. So you do want to pack these ahead of time. For example, if you're going to be using handouts, books, or you're going to have giveaways or even demonstration items, you want to have those packed. Pencils and any other teaching tools, audio-visual equipment you'll be using. And the actual day of the class, of course, again, you want to arrive early. It's recommended 30 to 45 minutes early. Post signs to help people find the classroom. You want to set up your classroom and decide which seating arrangement you're going to utilize according to the number of participants you'll have. You want to set up your registration table. Check the temperature and lighting of the classroom. Set up and check the audio visual equipment. Unplug the phone in the room and post class and session sign on the door. Set up a clock with an easy view of the trainer. Set up refreshments, if any. Greet people as they arrive and begin the class on time. The helper can assist people who arrive late to join the class. So this checklist is very beneficial as it relates to training readiness for your class. And again, the goal is of doing these things is to foster a learning environment where individuals, participants, they can learn. And if you all have any questions, again, just a reminder, please type your questions in the chat box. Our next objective is to describe training skills and techniques used with the adult learner. Okay, training skills and techniques used with the adult learner. Trainers do not need to have a medical background to teach people how to use what to do for your team's health. You do not have to have a medical background. Again, as Ms. Carter mentioned, if you wanted to invite someone to your class who had expertise in the different topic areas that are listed within the book, that is good. But to actually teach people how to use the booklet, you do not have to have a medical background. Trainers need to become familiar with the book, though. You need to read the book and be familiar with the book from cover to cover. In addition, trainers, they set the tone and the mood for the training sessions. Trainers who are warm and friendly, they tend to establish a comfortable environment where people feel safe and they're more willing to participate. Um, so you want to make sure that your approach, or you present yourself as being open, friendly, welcoming people to ask questions if they have any questions. You're more likely to keep them engaged, to keep their attention, and they're more likely to participate in the activities that you may have planned throughout the class session. In addition, trainers need to stay on schedule. Sometimes we can get off schedule, but it is necessary for us to stay on schedule, ensure the lesson plan is covered. And oftentimes, sometimes things do happen, not oftentimes, but sometimes things happen to get the class off session. So the trainer will need to know, if the class is off session as it relates to time, okay, what things can I not present? But when it comes to adult learners, you want to make sure you try and incorporate all the hands-on learning experiences or activities you have within the course, because this is the best way that adult learners learn, by actually doing. They do learn by hearing, seeing, but they actually learn by doing, by actually having that hands-on experience. In addition, trainers, they need to be observant of the participants. Unfortunately, with my screen blown up like this, and you all have the option to put your name in, I can't observe you all. But however, and when you're having a class session, you do want to be observant of your participants. And the reason being, you need to be aware, that sometimes, people notice the people who may become anxious if you call upon them. Some people don't like to be called upon. So you definitely want to allow the ones who are willing to participate. And oftentimes when they see other people participating, that anxiousness, it sort of goes away, and then they begin to participate. However, you as the trainer yourself, to foster an environment where you have that communication and that engagement going on, you need to be mindful of your tone, and not only your tone, but your body language. You need to be mindful of your body language. You need to have open body language. You don't need to stand before your class, in front of your class, with your hands, crossed. You need to be mindful of your nonverbal movements. For example, like nodding your head in an affirmative action. This encourages people to participate and stay engaged. Smiling or using other positive facial features will also assist the adult learners as it relates to getting them to participate and engage in the class. As I stated a little earlier, adult learners, they retain information best if they hear and see the information and they have an opportunity for hands-on experience. For example, your manual talks about the trainer verbally communicating the message, then displaying the message by using PowerPoint, flip chart, or even a chalkboard if you're in a setting with one. And then the trainer actually incorporates that communication into an activity, for example, like role playing. Okay, elements included in the lesson plan. So now we're going to take a moment to talk about elements that you want to include in the lesson plan, and then we're going to actually go to some of the resources that came that you got with your packet of information to show you how to utilize those. But assessing the learning needs of the adults, this is important, and it can be achieved by observing issues and problems asking informal questions or developing simple questionnaires in order to assess what the needs are. For example, there may be an increased number of parents reporting bullying to school administration. That's one way you can actually reach out to school officials to see what are the needs of the student population. What are the needs of the community? Reaching out to different community organizations to find out, or your own community organization, may very well know what the needs are. So you do want to assess the learning needs of the adult. In addition, you want to define your learning objectives. If you turn with me to page 27 of your training manual, it actually talks about the different types of objectives that you can utilize. The different types of objectives include cognitive objectives, affective-based objectives, or skills-based objectives. With your cognitive objectives, these relate to behavior changes, and they normally result from like learning new facts. Okay, an example of a cognitive learning objective is parent will define self-esteem and discuss 3 ways they can help their teens build strong self-esteem. That's an example of a cognitive objective. And then your affective-based objective, these are behavior changes resulting from new beliefs, values, or attitudes. An example of an affective-based learning objective is parents will attend school functions and volunteer to assist with school activities to demonstrate to their team the importance of education. And then we have skills-based objectives, the hands-on objectives. They involve performing a new skill where you actually allow the participant to perform the skill. An example would be using the book as a guide, like you all are doing, using your manuals, and then we will proceed to using the book. So using the book as a guide, parents will practice new ways of communicating with their teens. Preparing the lesson plan. This includes activities and exercises the trainer will use to achieve the learning goal. So we do want to keep in mind that the adult learners, they learn best by doing, having hands-on activities. And actually a part of this curriculum that you're going through is actually showing the participants how to actually utilize the book, finding topic areas in the book. So, and we're going to talk about that a little more as we go on. Therefore, incorporating activities such as practicing, looking up information in the book, role playing, how to communicate effectively with their team, or making a list of positive attributes of their team will facilitate achievement of the learning goals. Our next objective, discuss how to manage unexpected classroom situations. And we do know this does happen sometimes, but when this does happen, the first thing to do is, of course, to stop the disruptive behavior. Okay, you have to stop it. You know, hopefully you will not have to ask anyone to leave the classroom, but sometimes it does result in that. But you always, as the trainer, you want to treat the person with respect and also keep the rest of the people involved in the class and stay on schedule. If you look in your manual on page 31, it actually addresses some unexpected classroom situations and provides interventions as to how you can actually handle those. For example, let's look at 1 or 2 of them on page 31 if you're turning your manual. And an example, for example, one person keeps asking questions and or wants to answer all the questions. Yes, as a facilitator or a trainer of a class, you want people to answer questions, but sometimes it may just be that one person. So some examples of interventions that you can utilize if this is occurring includes try not to make eye contact with the individual and turn your back slightly towards him or her, not completely, but slightly. Try ignoring the raised hand initially. If it continues, you can say, I'm not ignoring you, but I'd like to give other people a chance to comment or ask questions. If the person persists, you may need to say, let's give other people a turn to ask or answer questions. This is one that I use often when I'm presenting. If this is a situation where there's only one person participating in asking the questions. In addition, another intervention you could use is if this doesn't work, ask the person to hold their questions until the break or the end of the class when you will be happy to spend time with him or her. And it gives you different situations that you may come into contact as it relates to unexpected classroom situations, how you can address them. But the main concern is to stop the disruptive behavior, because what's going to end up happening, you're not going to be able to finish the lesson that you had planned for the participants, which is not fair to the other people that are attending. Also, you want to use teaching tools, okay? Teaching tools make class more interesting. They support the learning process and they help the trainer present information more effectively. For example, our teaching tool for this session is, using the PowerPoint, using our manual, our training manual, as well as we're going to utilize the book. So you want to incorporate teaching tools into your sessions. There are many, many, many different types of teaching tools. These are just a few: PowerPoint, flip charts, handouts. And it depends on your population that you're teaching, the different types of tools that you'll use. If you have a group of 65 plus year old individuals, a teaching tool like Kahoot, that may not be something that you want to use. So you gotta, of course, pick teaching tools that will be applicable and that will to the population you're serving, and that will keep the individuals engaged. Okay. Here, basically, we want to review and discuss features of what to do for your team's health book and sample lesson plan. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to exit from this PowerPoint, and we have another PowerPoint, so I need to stop sharing my screen. Okay. And I need to pull up the other PowerPoint. And actually, this PowerPoint, everyone has the one that I'm going to share. Everyone has this PowerPoint. It's on your CD-ROM. And the beautiful thing about PowerPoints, you can modify these, put colors, insert graphics, and actually own it and make it your own, and utilize the content that is there. We want to try and stick as close as we can to this curriculum, but adding pictures or graphics and colors, that will help to keep your participants engaged. So let me see if I can share again. Okay, so everyone should be able to see the resource that came with your training resources. I'm gonna put it in full view mode. Let's see, slideshow from beginning. Okay, can everyone see that PowerPoint?
Yes, we can see it.
Great. Okay, now this is the actual PowerPoint that came with your resources. And like I said, the great thing about PowerPoints, you can modify this and make it your own. For example, to present the objectives I wanted to present with you all that related to your training manual, I took this PowerPoint and I added color, and then I inserted the slides that I wanted to go through as it related to the objectives I wanted to cover with the training manual. But this actually is the actual PowerPoint that has not been altered, that each and every one of you have as a resource for when you're planning your classes that you can utilize. So if you'll turn with me in your training manual to page 45, it actually gives you a sample lesson plan. We will not go through the entire lesson plan because of time limits, but we will go through at least one or two so you can get an idea of how you can utilize this PowerPoint in your classes to train. So if you turn to page 45, in your training manual, you'll see a sample lesson plan, okay? And what we're going to do is actually, I would like for us to go through the introduction and overview of the book, because this is, you're going to teach your participants how to utilize this book. Yes, you're going to teach them concerning the content, what's in the book, and actually addressing the content as it relates to the teen, the body changes, the mood, dating, those types of things. But you actually want to teach them how to utilize the book also. So if you turn with me to page 47, it gives you a summary of a sample lesson plan. It lists the goals of the class. It basically says at the end of the class, people will demonstrate how to use the book at home to keep teens safe and healthy, recognize signs of problems, and get help for their team. And basically, like I told you all, the entire, if you wanted to teach the entire book, and it will take up to at least 2 hours. You may do that all at one time and put breaks in between, or you may divide it up an hour on one day, an hour on another day. It's really just up to you how you decide, how long you decide to make the length of the class. And then also on page 47, it actually breaks down the time needed for each topic. For example, like the introduction and overview of the book takes about 30 minutes. And then it goes into the different lessons that are within the book. Understanding teens, teen safety, how parents can help teens. And then, of course, you have your wrap-up session, which will take about 15 minutes. On page 48, you want to make sure you have your tools that you'll need for teaching, and it gives you a checklist that you can utilize here. And again, it reminds you, you always want to start 30 to 45 minutes early. So let's look at page 51, and it talks about the introduction and overview of the book. Basically, those should be also goals of your class. You want them to be able to utilize this book so that if they have any questions, they can always go back and reference the book. So just like we talked about when we were looking at the other PowerPoint, you want to have learning objectives, and they can be cognitive, they can be skill-based, they can be affective-based, but you want to have learning objectives. And actually, you have a template for every section of the book provided to you within this PowerPoint resource that we have pulled up. For example, as we're talking about introduction and overview of the book, the objectives include discuss 2 features that make the book easy to use, demonstrate 2 ways to find information in the book, and state 3 topics they can find in the book. So these are the objectives that you would like for your participants to achieve. And of course, you start your sessions out with the welcome and introduction, and you explain the purpose of the class is to teach them to use the book to gain additional health education knowledge as it relates to their teens. You want to give them an overview of how long the class will be, when you'll have breaks, you'll have built-in breaks, and when you all will take those breaks. Then if you turn to page 52, it starts out, it says on page 52, letter D, introduce the book. And basically they give you a PowerPoint for that. And you basically introduce the book, what it's about, and that's the PowerPoint we're actually looking at. And then PowerPoint 2, as you keep going through this is PowerPoint 2, it actually tells you the purpose of the book, okay? And it's to help understand what the teen is going through, tell you what you can do to keep your teen safe and healthy, and tell you the signs of problems and where to get help for your teen. Okay, and then here on this slide, on page 54, it shows, this is PowerPoint slide number 3, and it shows you 2 ways to find information in the book. And this is where you actually want to have that activity where you actually have them, that hands-on participation, where they get to actually, pick up the book, use it, and actually, find what's in the book. So your slide, well, you're telling them it doesn't have to be this. You could find, well, it does need to be this because you're trying to teach them how to find topics in the book. So if you all will take your book, okay, and page 5, 6, basically it gives you the table of contents, and you want to explain this. I know it may seem simple to us, but you do want to take the time to explain. This is where you can find what's in the book on pages 5 and 6. And also there's the index, pages 178 through 184. And while you're doing this, you want them to actually have their book. You want to walk around the room and make sure they're able to find these areas in the book. To further familiarize the participants with the book, you can ask them to find different topics. Okay, it doesn't have to be these 4, but you have a PowerPoint. This PowerPoint has been prepared as a resource, and that's what's on it. But say you wanted to do your session on dating and bullying and let's see, the importance of school rules and discipline. Okay, so basically the activity, you would actually locate those page numbers so you would know those ahead of time. But for the purpose here, let's turn to page 163. And this helps to familiarize the participants with the book. Page 163, they should be able to find information on smoking and so forth. For example, anger, page 74, dating, page 99, and emotions, page 9. And again, just a reminder, walk around the room or be observant to make sure that your participants are able to find the information. Okay, here on this slide, this is information about the special features of the book, basically what makes the book easy to use. And you want to go over these, talk with your participants about this information, the large print, the plain language, the different illustrations, and the areas where they can write. Also note that each section has topics divided into 4 sections. You have the what is it section, you have the did you know section, and then you also have what can I do section located in the book, as well as when should I get help section. So you want to familiarize your participants with the 4 sections for each topic area. Also familiarize them with the glossary or the word list that is in the back. There's a word list that gives definitions of certain words located in the back of the book. And that could be an area you have them locate in the book. Okay, so after the introduction, after you've shown them how to utilize the book, help them to become familiar with the book, You could actually go into the sessions you want to teach. Again, you may teach all of the sessions, or you may only pick one or two sessions that you want to concentrate on. For time purposes, we're going to go through one of the sessions, understanding teens, and talk about that. If you'll turn in your manuals, your training manuals, to page 57, it actually gives you the lesson plan as it relates to understanding teens. Of course, you want to start out, you always want to have your learning objectives, and I tend to put these on our point slide also, as well as verbalize them. But, again, people learn by hearing it, seeing it, and of course, having activities where they can actually do things that will help them to achieve the learning objectives. So, for example, understanding teens, okay, what the book tells you. Basically, before you even go into that, you want to start with your objectives, and they have those listed out for you. The objectives of this section include: discuss 2 reasons why the teen years can be rough on teens, discuss 3 ways parents can help teens, and state 3 tips to help parents talk with their teens. And note that you can use PowerPoint 6, use the objectives to tell people what they will learn in the session. Okay, so here, this is part of the lesson moving forward, and it basically starts out: why are the teen years rough on teens? And this is PowerPoint 7. It actually gives you the reason, as far as body changes, emotions, peer pressure, pressures at school. And you can also reference the book to be a little more detailed about the body changes, the emotions, the peer pressure, and the pressures at school. Other pressures on teens, this is PowerPoint 8, and it actually lists some other pressures like dating, sex, worried about how they look, and want to feel grown up. And you can utilize the book, actually have them either, hands-on, turn to those pages in the book, and you all review that information, or you can actually tell them the page numbers, and you can provide a summary of that information depending on the time that you've allotted for the session. And then this is PowerPoint slide number 9, how parents can help teens. So basically, again, it lists out, and you notice your slides are not full and have an excess amount of bullets or long sentences that tends to take away. So you want to, keep your slides brief and concise, and not have, more than 4 to 5 bullets per slide. And then this understanding teens section, it gives tips for talking with teens. This is PowerPoint slide 10. Okay. And then it recommends within your lesson plan, you can use this activity or you can use a different activity. But the activity includes you lead the class in a discussion why talking with teens is so important. And it actually guides you to the points that should come out during the discussion. And if these points do not come out during the discussion, this is where the trainer will definitely elaborate. Or even if the points do come out during the discussion, the trainer can still continue to elaborate on the points. For example, it makes your team feel loved and important. It tells you how your team is feeling, and you can just go down the list and elaborate on these different points. And so I'm not going to go through each one of these sections, but you have a PowerPoint slide for each section. You have a team and safety. That session takes about 30 minutes. How parents can help teens, that's a 20-minute session. And then, of course, once you finish that, you get to the end of the class where you wrap it up, and let's go to those. But this is a great resource because you can actually modify these PowerPoint slides and add color, or you can actually decrease the wording. A lot of people, they'll put a few words and then talk from those words instead of reading off like the long sentences that are listed here on the PowerPoint. So each lesson plan is laid out for the book, and you can just, like I say again, edit the PowerPoint slides as needed. At the end of your session, you always want to leave time for your participants to actually ask questions. Okay, at the end, you want to make sure you leave time for them to ask questions. Also, you want to thank your participants for attending, okay? And actually, you want to congratulate them that they've mastered how to use the book. In addition, you want to talk about what the individual should actually review when they get home as it relates to the book. Encourage them to fill in the phone number section at the front of the book. Find a handy place to keep the book. Actually review the section when to get help right away on page 3. That is the section that you really want to stress with the parents. Read a few pages of the book every day until you've read it all, and to look up things in the book often. And also, if they have questions that may arise, you want to, especially as it relates to the health of their teens, definitely encourage them to direct that toward the healthcare provider if they have additional questions to arise. In addition, at the end of your session, you always want to ask your participants to complete an evaluation form. And after they've completed the evaluation form, you want to make sure you do thank them for actually participating. And that's a great opportunity if you have additional sessions that you will be teaching to let them know, about those sessions, or to let them know you will be keeping in contact with them via email or telephone for any upcoming sessions. Okay, I'm going to exit this PowerPoint. Again, this resource is on your CD-ROM, your CD disk, where you can download it and actually modify it and make it your own as far as adding color and graphics to it.